A very good evening to you. You are watching the Biz First in Focus on News First. My name is Chaturanga Pawarachi. On behalf of Shamir Rasuldeen, the original host of Biz First in Focus. Before I introduce the guest for this evening, let me give you a glimpse of what we are going to talk about. Be it the remote control you are having in your hand right now, or the keyboard that is in front of you if you're watching us on YouTube, everything or quite a few things that are in our lives are made out of plastic. Why are there so much plastic in our lives? We have a very eminent guest on our show this evening to discuss about this matter, Dr. Robin Kent, all the way from the United Kingdom. A very good evening to you, Doctor.
Good evening. How are you?
Before we get to the subject straight away, can you give me a brief introduction to yourself and what you're doing here at the moment?
Oh, well, I was born in Australia, which is not a good thing to mention in Sri Lanka at the moment with the cricket. I did my PhD in England and worked in the plastics industry around the world, working mainly on energy and sustainability management. And, well, fortunately for me, the Plastics Industry Association of Sri Lanka has invited me to come to Sri Lanka to talk to them about the sustainability journey, about how they can improve the reputation of plastics, how they can set a roadmap for the future to improve the sustainability of plastics and society.
As I mentioned at the outset of the show, there is quite a lot of plastic in our lives.
Certainly is.
Be it the phone we are using, the pen, anything that you think of, there's obviously some plastic connected to it. Why is there so much plastic in our lives, Doctor?
I think of plastics as being a key enabling technology. We see cars and we think of a car, but we don't think of it as containing plastics, whereas most cars nowadays contain a lot of plastics. And in fact, the replacement of metals in cars with plastics enables them to be more fuel economy. You have a mobile phone, you think of a mobile phone, I think of the bits of plastics in it. You think of a baby being born, and I see a baby being born, it's a great joy and celebration. But I also think you need to realise that that baby would have maybe died in childbirth or would not lead such a productive life if it wasn't for the plastics which enabled it to be born safely and well. Plastics is an industry which enables other technologies, and it enables the mobile phone, the keyboard, it enables clean water to be delivered to your house. So there are so much plastics, or there are a lot of plastics in your life, purely and simply because they are so useful. That's why. Are
you saying, Doctor, that we, to a certain degree, cannot live without plastic? Is that what you're saying?
I think if you took away the plastics today, yes, we could not live. It's like saying, okay, there are a lot of people in the Western world who say, if you took away my mobile phone, I could not live. Yeah. That would go. But so would, if you took away plastics, so would clean water, so would, well, give you an example. A lot of people have pacemakers.
Yes.
If you did not have plastics, you would not have pacemakers. Those people would be dead. So plastics enable the insulation in the pacemaker, so it enables those people to live. 3,000, I think, is the latest calculation. Policemen are alive because of Kevlar vests. So the fact that they've got these bulletproof vests means that they're alive. So whilst not everybody would die instantaneously, it would make it a lot more difficult for us to live the modern life. The world population is around 7.9 billion. Without plastics, it would be a lot less.
Doctor, now when you look at plastics and we say that plastic helps save lives, reduce child mortality, save policemen, but there is a long-term disadvantage of plastic as well. There is environmental pollution, there is pollution of water, contamination of water, etc., etc. How do you think the world should address these problems?
There is a sustainability journey, and one of the nice things that I see about being in Sri Lanka at this stage is this sustainability journey, which in the West is really just beginning. We're starting to talk in the EU about what we call the circular economy, about all of the plastic should be recycled, that we shouldn't be wasting them. For you, a waste plastic bag is a waste plastic bag, which is unfortunate and not very good. For us, it should be thought of as a new raw material. There is pollution, and when you say pollution, I think you should divide that into two sides. There are littering, and that is a problem. But in a sense, if you look at the litter, if you see a cardboard cup, do you blame the paper industry? But for some reason, when you see a plastic bag, it's the plastics industry that's banned. There's wood thrown on the floor, there's lots of litter. That's a society problem, not just an industry problem. Right. So we need to start educating the society, and we need to start educating the industry, and we need to start putting in place methods where we can actually capture that raw material. There is pollution, yes, accepted. What the good thing is we're starting to address that issue. It's obviously not something we want. We want the raw materials back again.
So Doctor, you spoke of a roadmap that
yes.
the international communities or the Western Hemisphere of the world is following at the moment. Where are we, Sri Lanka? If you place Sri Lanka in the roadmap, where are we standing?
Well, the roadmap is still being developed in the Western world. We are still talking about the circular economy. We're trying to get the data. And the good thing about Sri Lanka is they're not actually very far behind.
Right.
You might think, oh, we're a long way behind. Well, you're not. You're actually very close. Germany, UK, America, we're starting to put together the data so we understand what the roadmap is, what we can do in terms of the circular economy. And Sri Lanka is very close. For instance, in the UK, we started work on the particular group I'm working with only about 6 months ago.
Right.
And so 6 months later, I'm in Sri Lanka talking about the same sort of topics. So you guys are not far behind. I think it's really creditable that the Plastics Industry Association is starting to think about this now. Right. Certainly there are drivers from government, from world pressure, but I think it's really good that people are starting to think in Sri Lanka now.
Dr. Kent, when you look at this roadmap that is being developed at the moment, from it taking the plastic industry from this point to the other points that we're looking at, is there a journey that is in between that would directly or indirectly support the plastic industry?
I think that, yes. To answer the question, I'll give you a statement. There is no conflict. The journey towards being green, and it is a journey, it's not just one step. The journey towards being green is not a conflict with being profitable. And I think there is a phrase in America called the triple bottom line. There's a book called Green is Gold. But what people think sometimes is that sustainability is a cost to the company. It might well be a cost initially to the company, but at the end of the day, sustainability and profitability are interlinked. We, as an industry and as companies, have stakeholders. We have employees, we have shareholders, but we're also partially responsible to society. So we've got to make money in order to deliver the benefits. If we don't make money, then we're not going to be able to be sustainable. So these are interlinked concepts. Sustainability and profitability are very interlinked. And there is no conflict. You can be profitable and be sustainable.
Can you be profitable and be sustainable? We'll be talking to Dr. Robin Kent about the plastic industry soon after this commercial break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the show. You're watching Biz First in Focus. This evening we have an eminent guest from the plastic industry joining us, Dr. Robin Kent. Good evening to you, sir, once again. We were talking about sustainability and the road to development. Now, you've said that you can be profitable as well as be sustainable.
Certainly.
Can you explain this statement to me, sir, please?
Right. We devise, or we class the circular economy. There are 4 different stages in the life of a product, and that's sort of the raw materials, the manufacture, then there's the use, and then there's what we call the end of life. And traditionally, we've gone through this. We've done raw materials, manufacture, use, end of life, and the product has been thrown away. What we're talking about now is how do we reduce environmental impacts at raw materials. That could be recycling, it can be biodegradable, biomaterials. Then we go to manufacture. How do we reduce our environmental impacts at manufacture? We talk about energy use reduction, material use reduction, all of which are profitable exercises. Then we talk about what do we do at the use stage, And it might come as a surprise, but for instance, if you own a refrigerator, the cost of energy in the life of that refrigerator is greater than the cost of the refrigerator. Certainly in Sri Lanka, if you own an air conditioner, the cost of energy in your using the air conditioner will be more than the purchase cost of the air conditioner. So as a society, we have to look at the costs of actually owning the product. Then we get to the disposal stage, and traditionally we've just thrown it out. Whereas what we're talking about in the circular economy is how do we disassemble, how do we reuse the products, or how do we reuse parts of the products, how do we reuse the components, how do we reuse the materials, and then funnel them back into the raw material stage. That's why it's called the circular economy. And there's profit to be made at every stage, both for the industry and for the consumer and for the society.
Let me zoom out a bit from out of our country and look at the world as a whole. When you look at the plastic industry globally, how do the countries around the world see the plastic industry? Do they see it as a bad impact to their environment? Therefore, do they sort of try to disengage from it, or are they involved in it, and are they trying to look for development paths as well?
I think it's a mixed picture.
Right.
Certainly, it depends where you are in the world, and partially, and I'll go back to what I said before, partially that's the society impacts, the littering. So for instance, in the UK we don't see as much littering. In Germany you see a lot less littering because the society really discourages littering. So if you go to Scandinavian countries, they don't see the littering, so they don't see that very visible negative aspect. So talking about how far we are on the journey towards the circular economy, again, it depends where you are in the world. Recycling rates in Europe vary very widely between countries. Germany, again, has a very high recycling rate. Certain other countries have low recycling rates. I won't name them. But it varies with the country. So I think it is a society, if you're asking me, how does society view the industry around the world, it's very mixed. And I couldn't give you they are bad or good. It's just mixed. Right.
So coming back to directly plastics, there are, from my knowledge, there are good plastics, there are bad plastics. There are plastics that help people live, as you said, and there are maybe bad plastics. Am I right in saying that there are bad plastics?
Oh, it's really bad form to say you're wrong, but you're wrong. There are no good plastics or bad plastics. Plastics are a tool. I think I'll go back. It's an enabling technology. They can be used wrongly. They can be produced wrongly. They can be produced badly. The user can do the wrong thing with them. The user can do the right thing with them. Some people might say, oh, polyethylene is bad because of plastic bags. But polyethylene is also a great insulator. It can be used for water pipes, gas pipes. It depends on the product, it depends on the user. There is no such thing as a bad plastic or a good plastic. If you look at, for instance, I'm trying to think, okay, is a mobile phone good or bad? Okay, well, a mobile phone can be used to send text messages to say that you've arrived at your destination safely. It can be used to send a message of comfort. It can be used to talk to my wife. It can be used for lots of things. And that's a good mobile phone. A bad mobile phone is when you get children sending bad messages to other children. They are bullying other children. That's a bad mobile phone. So is a mobile phone good or bad? It's the user, it's the experience, it's the application. So, I'm sorry, there are no good plastics or bad plastics.
So plastics in general, as you said earlier, helps people live their lives, and that's all that there is to it.
It's a neutral thing. It's good or bad, depending on what the user does with it. If I buy a plastic bag and I carry my goods home with it, and I use it responsibly and I dispose of it responsibly, it's a good plastic bag. It's helped me, you know. If I buy a plastic bag, I use it once and I throw it on the floor, I throw it in the street, it's a bad plastic bag. If I buy a cup of coffee and it's in a disposable paper cup, and I drink my drink and I take it and I dispose of it responsibly, it's a good paper cup. If I throw it out the window of my car when I've finished it, it's a bad paper cup.
That's how it is.
That's how it is. I'm sorry, you know, but good plastics, bad plastics, that's not a discussion we should be.
But Dr. Kent, now from time to time there were environmental foundations, environmental organizations of different sort that came forward and said, look, plastic is bad, the people dispose it the wrong way, it helps, it contributes to the pollution of the environment, so on and so forth. Is it because they have a lack of knowledge with regard to how plastic works and how the industry works, or should their attention be focused on the society rather than being focused on the industry as a whole?
I think it would be wrong to say they're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that's confusing.
Yeah.
A lot of what they say is correct,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think it's just a society problem. As an industry, and that's one of the reasons I'm in Sri Lanka, is to try and provide this roadmap. As an industry, we have a lot to do, and not just in Sri Lanka, but around the world. There are some bits of the industry which are not so good. Yeah, we obviously have some problems that we are trying to solve, but that's a thing which we're starting the journey.
Right.
If you say, I don't know, activated carbon, is this a good industry or bad industry? I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there are bad bits of it and good bits of it, but we are starting a journey.
Right.
And that's what part of the journey starts today in Sri Lanka, and hopefully you guys will catch up very quickly, because you've got a lot of information which you can get from the Western world, and you're not very far behind. I think we'll get a lot of progress in Sri Lanka probably very quickly, and the people I've spoken to in Sri Lanka are very enthusiastic about this, so I look forward to working with them in the future.
On that note, so we'll take another short commercial break. Stay with Biz First in Focus. Welcome back. You're watching Biz First in Focus. This evening on the show we have Dr. Robin Kent joining us, a specialist in the plastic industry all the way from the United Kingdom. Doctor, we were talking about the plastic industry, the sustainability, the road to development, or the path that you're going to develop in the future. You are here in Sri Lanka now. What can we as a country learn from individuals like you when it comes to this industry?
Oh gosh, you've got to really. That feels very embarrassing to answer that question.
Okay.
I've been in one plastics company in Sri Lanka so far, and I can honestly say I was really impressed with the enthusiasm, with the qualifications, with the knowledge. I'm not sure if they represent the whole industry, but if the rest of the industry is like this company, then you guys there's not much I can add. I can come here as a teacher. I've been doing this for 20 years.
Right.
I've been in the plastics industry for 40 years, so I'm very old. And I can provide some hints and techniques, but so far I've been really impressed with the people and the skills and the technology you already have in Sri Lanka. This is not a country that I think should be ashamed. You should be proud of the people you've got. You've got some really highly qualified and enthusiastic people. There's a lot of people here who can do this job.
You told me before the show, sir, that you've been traveling in Pakistan, in countries in the region as well.
Yeah.
Leaving aside the global arena when it comes to the plastic industry, how are we doing, if you can tell me how we are doing in the region, the Asian region or the South Asian region, are we doing good in terms of plastic?
Yes. I mean, my experience covers Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Bangladesh, India. Yeah, you guys are up there.
All the South Asian countries, more or less.
Well, I haven't been to Pakistan very recently,
Right.
but no, you guys are really up there. I think it's an industry which is growing in Sri Lanka, but there's some competition too. The Malaysians and the Thai industries are very strong. I was in Bangladesh recently, and they are becoming really focused on export.
Right.
Speaking with the guys from the PIASL, there's a lot of development that could be done in the industry in Sri Lanka to actually look at exports, to look at supporting maybe the automotive industry. But you've got the skills. So far what I've seen, you've got the skills and the people and the enthusiasm, and that really counts for a lot.
This is, after all, sir, Biz First in Focus, so I have to ask you a business-related question as well.
Okay.
When it comes to investing in the plastic industry, if you were the investor, where would you go and invest in this region?
One thing I look to as an investor is actually security of my money,
Right, yeah.
and that is, do we have a country, do we have an environment which has a rule of law? And that's very important, because you want to know that if you put your money into a country, that it's got an effective rule of law, that you can actually move your money around, that you can actually work efficiently. I really have only been in Sri Lanka for about 4 days now, but it looks to be an environment which is very conducive to investment. I really am tempted to say Sri Lanka, but that would just be being nice to you at this stage. So I don't know. Ask me in another 10 days.
10 days and you will have an answer.
10 days and I will give you a better answer, put it that. But Sri Lanka is very, very nice. I was saying to one of my hosts yesterday that the good thing I felt, even in my short time in Sri Lanka, was that I felt safe and comfortable. And that is not something you can say always everywhere in Asia. So.
Not everyone will be able to be a part of the guest lecture that you are going to do. Any message that you have to give to the vast individuals who are involved in the plastic sector who might be watching our show?
I think it's more an advice to the business sector, and that is the road to sustainability starts now.
Road to sustainability starts now. You are here, this is your 4th day in the country.
Yes.
You will be attending a few seminars as well, as I'm told. Can you tell me a few things that you are going to touch upon at these seminars?
Basically, the seminar we will be doing with the Plastics Industry Association is to actually describe what we call the roadmap to sustainability. We'll be doing later on a workshop, a full-day workshop on energy management, which is reducing the energy use in plastics processing. And that might seem, why do we want to reduce the energy use? Well, it reduces the carbon footprint of the factory. So it's talking about reducing the carbon footprint and being profitable. It goes back to the message I said before. If you do the right things, say in the energy management sector, you reduce the energy use, you reduce the cost, you reduce the carbon emissions, everybody's happy, everybody's profitable, business moves on.
Finally, the bottom line of all this. What you're telling me is that if you have an educated society where people don't litter and the environment is taken care of, the plastic industry is what drives, it helps rather, the technology and all the other related components, and at the end of the day will help society in return.
Absolutely. I think the plastics industry, the plastics products are valuable contributors to our standard of life.
Thank you very much, Dr. Robin Kent, for being here on Biz First in Focus this evening. I know you're having a very busy schedule going around to the companies and for lectures around the country. Thank you once again for being here with us on the show. If you are here in the country once again, we would love to have you on our show once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Captain. Cheers.
That was Dr. Robin Kent joining us on the Biz First in Focus. We will be here same time, same place next week. Take care and good night.